So let's talk about Ethereum Classic. You guys may or may not have noticed the rise in Ethereum Classic. It's pretty much one of the top 3 coins to here currently take a huge leap in price. I believe it's actually number 4 in highest gains right now on coin market cap. You can see here it's up 24% over the past 24 hours. It's up 40% over the past 7 days. Actually, over the past 7 days, it's in second only to Lido. And Lido is really interesting too, because obviously Lido, we'll talk about that here in a second when we get to Ethereum pump and everything that's going on with Ethereum in general. But right now we're covering Ethereum Classic. There's really a multitude of things going on, but the primary one is that Antpool has added a $10 million backing. Ethereum Classic is up 14% following crypto miner Antpool's $10 million investment and Vitalik's supportive comments. Ethereum Classic, a non-forked version of Ethereum, is enjoying a hefty rally early Wednesday morning. Following the infamous DAO hack of 2016, Ethereum split into 2 blockchains, Ethereum, the second largest cryptocurrency by market capitalization, and Ethereum Classic, the real Ethereum, where code is still law. The newly created chain is the currently used Ethereum network, and the hacked chain continues to operate as Ethereum Classic. Remember, this DAO hack back in the day, the argument for Ethereum Classic was essentially, code is law. You have to kind of let it go as far as the hack was concerned. And it really kind of ended up in this position where you had it split off. It ended up, for proof of work miners at the end of the day, probably being best that it did split off, because otherwise we'd have a single chain of Ethereum that would go proof of stake and there would be no kind of carbon copy of that from a technical perspective. So it's kind of interesting that it did work out in the end. Importantly, the latter will not be merging to a proof of stake consensus mechanism in September. And as a shift to proof of stake would effectively make Ethereum miners obsolete, all eyes are now on Ethereum Classic, which will continue to operate for using more traditional mining mechanisms. I would argue that there are some eyes on other proof of work coins out there other than Ethereum Classic. It's just Ethereum Classic has the most potential to have the increased volume. It also has very easy migration points or methods from Ethereum from a development perspective. So that's kind of why you look at it. But we'd be amiss, if we didn't mention things like Ravencoin, Flux, Ergo, and so on. Those have much smaller volumes though, and that can impact, of course, large trading, which will, of course, impact large miners. So the large miners really do only have kind of one option if we really look at it completely objectively, and that does appear to be Ethereum Classic, and we're talking about large GPU miners, especially things like HUD 8. Antpool, for example, though, recently announced a $10 million investment to back quality projects built on Ethereum Classic. Backed by mining hardware manufacturer Bitmain, Antpool is the 3rd largest Bitcoin mining pool and 14th largest Ethereum mining pool, according to data from BTC.com. At Bitmain's World Digital Mining Summit yesterday, Antpool CEO Leon Elvey announced their support for ETC as it continues to operate as a proof-of-work network. He says, quote, "Let's support the ETC ecosystem and incubate high-quality proof-of-work projects together." And that was tweeted by Antpool early in the morning. Since the announcement, Ethereum Classic has completed a roughly 14% rally over the past 24 hours. More than that, because now we're at $33 a token. This was written when it was $27 a token. And despite today's tremendous gains, ETC is still down 84.62% from its all-time high of $176 recorded in May of 2021. According to CoinMarketCap, it's not just Bitmain that's boosting the smaller of the 2 Ethereum projects either. On July 21st, Vitalik Buterin, an Ethereum co-founder, also extended his support for the project, calling it a totally fine chain and the original Ethereum. That's a big statement there. He added that if you like proof of work, you should use Ethereum Classic. And we'll have to see how it plays out, right? Because we're looking for these price discoveries. Of course, we could call this a little bit of a price discovery, but the price discovery has to go up much, much higher than that to support all the hash rate coming off of Ethereum. And because Ethereum Classic can be mined with some of the ASICs with firmware updates, it's important to pay attention to it, because that does mean that there are certain mining farms that are running on ASICs that are only going to be able to move to Ethereum Classic. So for the home miner, it might not be the intelligent thing to go with Ethereum just from that perspective, because the competition will be the highest there. Like I said, if we really look at like the top 100 projects, we don't have any other GPU mineable coin though, which makes it a little weird. Like you got some other proof of work coins, like you have Dogecoin here at number 10. But other than that, if you scroll through this list, Ethereum Classic is at least in the top 20. It even beats out Litecoin, which is an ASIC coin. But from there, you start scrolling down. You do have Monero at number 27, but that's primarily going to be CPU. So from a GPU perspective, not much. Bitcoin Cash, which is going to be, essentially ASICs. So if we keep scrolling down and we're looking, in the top 100, there really isn't anything here as far as GPU mineable, right? Like we can just keep going and going and going. And there's really not much until we get to Zilliqa at number 77. But that's going to kind of be mined in tandem with Ethereum Classic, because that usually ends up only having a portion of it needing to be mined periodically, meaning that you essentially mine something else for a while and then you bounce over to Zilliqa, solve a block, and then go back. What makes it, relevant in general is that people dual mine it essentially with Ethereum at this time. So other than those two, Zilliqa and Ethereum Classic, there's really not much here. I think you got to get into the 200s before you really start seeing anything else, like the coins we mentioned, like Flux and so on. In fact, we can probably go ahead and check that here in a second when we get into the mining profitability for the day. Now, there is more support coming to Ethereum as well, or Ethereum Classic. You have the DeFi Llama now tracking the ETH Classic DAO, and that's going to be super relevant as well, because now you are seeing, old DeFi, original kind of DeFi platforms, trackers, that sort of thing start to integrate with Ethereum Classic. This integration is really interesting because it is what we presumed would happen, but we weren't really positive that this type of thing would happen. We've seen the marketplaces for NFTs start to stand up. We've seen some DeFi get integrated. It is easy from the retailer's perspective because you can just connect your MetaMask wallet to Ethereum Classic. Lots of positives there, but the adoption does need to be built upon. What we are seeing now is some adoption of Ethereum Classic start to happen pre-merge, which will happen in September. So keep an eye on Ethereum Classic. Even if you aren't a miner, keep in mind that miners support these ecosystems. And when you see a huge shift like this, it does mean that just by default, Ethereum Classic is going to get a lot of support from miners. And miners are really your base level. They're your L1 of participants within the ecosystem from a retail perspective. So even if you aren't going to be getting into Ethereum Classic from the mining perspective, you should still be keeping an eye on Ethereum Classic. And you can see here they have that tracker here for ETC swap. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Crypto Mining Show. You can check out the full episode here or more crypto content down here. Also, I'd like you to check out my locals page at sonofatech.locals.com, where you can become a member for free or choose to be a $5 a month supporter that unlocks additional content.